Hello there, my friends. Welcome to today's episode. Welcome to December. If you're listening to this right when it comes out, here we are, last month of the year. So, I'm going to take this month to yes, we want to finish 2023. My head's so in 2024. I'm like, what year are we finishing? We are finishing 2023 strong, of course. And lots of things we've been talking about here recently. My view on this month is not that it's a wash and not that it should be ignored, but that it should be, in my opinion, approached like we are going to just try to maintain. I don't try to make any fat loss goals, obviously not right now, but anytime of year, like when I'm not pregnant, this is not the time that I'm trying to lose weight or lose body fat or any of that stuff. It's fine if you are. We've talked a little bit about that in these holiday specific episodes. However, I just think, taking this time to finish out what we're doing, staying consistent with what we're doing, all the things we've talked about, maybe doing 3 or 4 workouts a week. This, last month of the year, that's what we're doing in the Chasing Greatness group, which is our monthly workout group. We're just doing 3 workouts a week with an optional fourth, but then trying to really hold ourselves to that. Like by hook or crook, you are getting those workouts in is the idea. And I hold myself to that as well, pregnant and not pregnant and all of that. So I'm doing that with you as well. And right up until hopefully, maybe even at the time this comes out, the baby will be here, but I don't know. So we'll see. But that is my plan, I do the same thing. So I would, advise you exactly as I advise myself. And now I kind of want to segue into using this month to prepare ourselves for a really great 2024. You might be listening to these episodes in January because I know December can be a whirlwind. And it's like, oh my gosh, I do that where then I haven't listened to my usual podcasts. Other things are falling by the wayside because just schedules are different and all of that. So whenever you're listening to this, it's not too late. Even if you're catching this, in March of 2024, these things can still apply. I love the new year and we'll talk about that as it approaches even more and throughout these episodes. But there's, every day is truly, it's corny, but every day is really like a new beginning and it's a new chance of, just winning the day. Talk about that a lot. That I did not coin, but somebody named Andy Frisella did, who's an entrepreneur, to just win the day that you're in. So these can apply, you know, whenever you listen to them. I just want to say that. Now, today we're specifically going to talk about how to plan your year. Again, setting ourselves up for success, including different exercise modalities and kind of just an overarching view of, especially this is going to, if you are newer, let me back it up. If you're newer to working out, to trying to eat in a more macro balanced way, I talk a lot about this 80-20 idea and tracking your macros within that, or just making sure your macros are balanced within that. That might be enough right now where you're like, okay, that's all I can, kind of wrap my head around. I'm just kind of getting into strength training, or maybe I haven't sold you yet on the strength training and you're doing a mix of a lot of stuff, which is fine. A mix is great as long as you're doing strength training. But today I'm going to take it a little step further because a lot of you have been with me for a long time and you now are taking even some of like my, programs, like a lot of you are in the Chasing Greatness group who then are doing a couple days at the gym and incorporating different exercises and different goals and things like that. And we're all, even if you're in any kind of group program or you go to a group class or you're in one of my group programs, there's ways to personalize it. And we talk about that a lot in my programs. But so when you're looking at your coming year, you should not be just cutting and pursuing fat loss all the time, nor should you just be working out the same way all the time. So this is what I naturally do. You'll notice, and I'll talk about and give examples. But I naturally do this when I come up with long-term programs. Like Chasing Greatness Group is the best example of this because that is the monthly workout program where, I'm planning out 12 months. So at the beginning of the year, I've already done it, of course, for 2024, but I will sit down and a lot of you, we crowdsourced it this year. I took your opinions in a survey and, found out what you wanted to prioritize too. We all kind of weighed in on this, but there's things that I'm always going to make sure I incorporate. I don't always say it. So this is like, again, whether you're in one of mine or not, because if you're in one of mine, I'm kind of doing it for you. But if you're doing your own thing, which a lot of you are, and are either going to the gym, working out at home, but you're developing your own workouts, doing your own thing, this is going to be hopefully helpful to you. That's the goal of it. And walk you through the process I kind of do to make sure I'm hitting the main points, because you do not, I just want to say it one more time, want to spend the entire 12 months of the year doing HIIT style workouts, doing really intense like fat loss, either style workouts or just cutting, making sure you're, taking in less than you're burning the whole year long. You don't want to live there. And it's kind of like always just chasing something too, but there's a lot of things you're going to leave by the wayside then. So even then, when you get to your fat loss goal, or, most people, it's very ironic. So I want to let you know that too. Because I might not be selling you on this. You might be like, no, Brittany, but I need to lose 50 pounds. So like, I do need to do fat loss the whole year. You can. Let me just say that. I just had a client that I worked with last year who was in the Chasing Greatness group, and we did coaching calls along with it. So we'd check in, I'd look at her food logs, we'd touch base via email, via our coaching calls. And over the course of like 8 months, she did meet her goal of losing 30 pounds. So, and then still had some of the year to play with, clearly. But even within that, so she was still losing fat. She wasn't plateauing or anything. We included all kinds of things because she was doing the Chasing Greatness workouts. So she was getting her balance. She was getting her flexibility. She was getting her mobility. She was getting all these other things too. So just know that the two can coincide. You can be losing fat without doing only one style of eating or one style of working out. A lot of times our bodies respond a lot better when we are not just mixing things up for the sake of mixing things up, but giving them a break, focusing on other things. Even sometimes when we back off the workout, intensity, if we go down, I should say frequency, if we go down from 6 workouts a week to 4, but we prioritize sleep, you would be surprised at maybe you just drop fat because now your hormones are back in balance, so there's so many factors at play. I try to give a really holistic view to health and fitness in general, because we can't just isolate it. Like, what's the best type of working out for fat loss? What's the best type of nutrition? Like, it all factors in, and our bodies need breaks. Even if you just came to me now and said, Brittany, I want to lose, we'll just stick with that 30 pounds in the next 8 months. Because that is what that lady did, which was not necessarily the exact goal. But, so actually we came in a little before our deadline actually, but, and said like, so would I just cut for 8 months? No, like I would be showing you how with macros, if you were getting into the nitty gritty of that, how we need to be in a cut, then we need to reverse diet back up, then we need to maintain, then we need to do it again, because your body can't stay there. It's not going to optimize fat loss to just cut for a year. That just becomes eating low calorie. All right. So if you are trying to do this at home and plan out your year, because that is the point of this, first thing I want you to consider is taking into account what you enjoy that might be seasonal, or what you like to do over the course of a year. Again, if you're newer and you might be like, I don't really enjoy anything about working out, that's fine. All right, bear with it. But if you know certain things about yourself, even mood wise, okay, like for me, I like to run. I do not usually run in the winter. Sometimes last year I did start in January because I knew that I wanted to do a race in August. So I had that goal in mind and thought, I had a baby in July and thought, okay, I'm going to like work my core, get my strength back, start walking. I'm going to start running in January, and started, with just a mile, guys. That's where you start. And then by, August, I knew I had the race. So I did run through the winter, because I knew if I started in June or July, I could not possibly run 50 miles at the end of August. So I did run through the winter last year. However, like this, also, I'll get into like taking into account your season of life. Obviously, if I'm having a baby in December, I'm not going to start running in January anyways. But things to think about. Do you like things seasonal? A lot of you I know listening do some different races and things in the summer, 5Ks, half marathons, etc. Spartan races, a lot of you do. So take that into account with your, entire year plan. Because if you're doing a Spartan race in June, say, then maybe, March, April, May, you want to specifically be including a lot of grip strength and upper body, like pull-ups to get up and over those walls, working monkey bars in there, that kind of stuff. But January, February, maybe you're just like, man, I really need to get stronger. Like my legs need to get stronger for those hill climbs and stuff. So January, February, I'm going to need to bulk in calories. So eat a little more than I think my body needs. And I need to focus on building strength. So I'm going to use high, heavy weights, low reps, like 6 to 8 reps instead of doing these 10 to 12 reps, kind of workouts. I'm going to drop it down to 6 to 8, and I'm going to really work on building strength for January, February. So then March, April, May, I can start kind of trying to cut a little bit and lose any, body fat that I might have gained from the bulk while I start working on speed work and maybe my grip strength stuff, my upper body stuff. Like that's still the more like skill based things like monkey bars where you want to feel lighter and leaner. That's just an example. So think about if there is anything you like seasonally that you would need to incorporate in there. A lot of you too, like you might have a hobby that you would want to work around. I used to train a couple of people who might be listening to this podcast. There's several ladies who specifically wanted to get stronger to shoot bow. So we focused on, okay, when's bow hunting season? So during the season, you're probably going to be doing a lot more just mobility and stretching and range of motion to the muscles that you're working there. But those couple months before, we were doing lots of heavy rows, heavy back work, like all those pull muscles that you need to pull back a bow. Same thing with, okay, I think you get it. I don't think you need an example of every physical activity that we have going on. I was just going to say golf. That's another big one where like, maybe you don't get a lot of steps in during the winter and whatnot, and you need to plan that in your workout. Like you need to plan a specific cardio day, whether it's indoors or outdoors, because you just don't do it as much in the winter. You're like more sedentary. But then in the summer, you might not need to do any HIIT or any cardio because you get so many steps because you golf 2 times a week and you walk it. Okay. So all things to consider when you're looking at your year as a whole. If there is anything seasonal, just kind of jot that down. Like maybe grab a piece of scrap paper and just write out the 12 months, write out when these seasonal things are. So for me, that would look like I would just over June, July, August, I'd do a little box and put like to run, because I know that I'm going to probably include 1 or 2 runs a week in my plan there. Cause I know that when that summer sun hits, I'm like, get me outside. Maybe that was too much. Maybe it's May, June, July, because I start itching to do it more in the spring. But and I do like to stretch more in the winter. So stretching is something that should be in there all the time. But I know that I'm more down with those kind of workouts when I'm cold and wake up a little more like stiff and cold and want to get moving. I like to do that kind of stuff in the morning. So things to know about yourself. All right. So that was step 1, was think about what you might need to consider seasonally. Step 2 is make sure these certain staples are just always in there. This is no matter who I'm programming for. This is going to be in there no matter what. Like even if we have a balance focus or a flexibility focus, these other elements are the bones of the structure of the workout plan still. So number 1 is strength training is the foundation. So it needs to be in there at least 3 times a week. So if you're listening to this, you're like, I only work out 3 times a week. Well, you know what your workouts are that day then. And then within that strength workout, I'm going to talk about the next step is incorporating like what that strength needs to look like to make sure it's balanced and well-rounded. But strength training needs to be at least 3 times a week. Now there's fluctuation here and there's room for personalization. If you love your Peloton, you can do 3 strength a week and 2 Peloton rides a week. And that still only comes out to 5 workouts a week. You still get 2 rest days. That's very doable. Or if you're like, I only have 3 days that I can work in workouts, then maybe you do 20 minutes of strength and you do a 20-minute ride after. And now you know your workouts have to be about 40 or 45 minutes. Lots of different ways to play with this. If you know you love to lift, like, and your goal is to get stronger, to grow in strength, to maybe compete in something next year or whatever that's more strength based. Okay. Powerlifting, some of you listening might be interested in that. That is going to be a huge factor because you're obviously not going to be doing much cardio. If you're going to do a powerlifting meet, you're going to be very heavily focusing on lifting. I know that's not our, most of our listeners, but that might be somebody. Now, so strength always has to be in there at least 3 times a week. That's a staple. Another staple is mobility needs to be either included in your workouts or addition in there at least once a week. So I usually do a mix of this with our chasing greatness workouts. I'm usually doing mobility worked right in. And I don't always say it. Like if it's an upper body day, I might put kettlebell halos on there where you take the kettlebell and it passes around your head. And with a little rotation, we go side to side on that. That's really good for upper body mobility. I might just stick that on an upper body mode on an upper body day and not say, hey, this is a mobility move. I do talk a lot in the workout, so I might say that. But a lot of times I do have a separate mobility workout where we're foam rolling and stretching, or it's more Pilates style. A lot of us have been liking that. So I plan to include that for sure in the coming year and even get more into that. But strength training and mobility need to be in the bones of your workout. All right. So from there, you're considering everything, right? Seasonally, you've got to strength train a couple times. This is when it's fun. I want you to make sure that you're including all the different things you should be focusing on. So I'm just going to name a couple of these and just jot them down like in your notes. And then when you're planning your workouts, I'll give you examples of what this would look like. So I want you to think about movement on all planes. A lot of times we're doing things only front to back, like a forward stepping lunge or back stepping lunge. You've got to work all planes of the body. It's really important for preventing injury. So making sure there's lateral movement in there, making sure there's rotational movement in there. This is huge because it's really functional. That's a big buzzword is functional fitness, right? You are not usually just walking straight forward and back through your life. You're bending down, picking something up, you're twisting, you're stepping to the side to grab something and these are the times we usually injure ourselves if our bodies are not used to moving that way. So, things like side lunges, things like those rotating halos I just talked about, making sure you're working all planes of movement. You also want to make sure you're including symmetry work like single-sided or unilateral exercises. Examples of this would be like a unilateral row where you're rowing just with one dumbbell on one side, or you're doing everyone's favorite step ups, which are no one's favorite, where one foot is on a bench step or chair and you're pushing up through the heel and working one leg at a time. Single-sided work is very important to make sure that you are well balanced, that you don't have one dominant side just taken over. If all you do is squat and you're just focusing on, this is exactly what I mean about switching things up with a purpose throughout the year. Think about this. If you love a good goblet squat, which I do too, I use goblet squats all the time, but all you do is goblet squat, hip thrust, like double leg work, RDLs, double leg, and you just increase on getting stronger, and you're just going up in that weight. That's again fine. If you were looking for just maximal strength for a short-term thing, that's fine. If you were building strength, if say back to my example of the person who's doing a Spartan race in June, if January or February, they were focused on building strength, we would just do a lot of double leg stuff, go heavy, that kind of thing, because you can't go as heavy when you're doing single-sided. Now, it's still beneficial even in that to work single-sided because obviously if you catch both sides up to each other, you're going to end up stronger in the long run. But say you just love your goblet squats, that's all you're doing. You're all this double, two sides at a time working together. You are going to just max out on weight eventually. Eventually you're going to lift as much as you can, or you're going to need to keep buying more weights. And then when you go to do anything single-sided, you might realize you have a huge deficiency on one side and your other side has just been kicking and helping. Because if you're squatting, one leg can really carry a lot of it and cover it. You don't even notice it. And those kind of little deficits become more noticeable when all of a sudden you have one side responsible for it. So keeping that in mind, single-sided on both upper and lower body is important. You do also want to make sure that you are working your balance and flexibility. I know I talked about mobility, but balance is super important. It's one of the key indicators in a lot of studies for early onset dementia is if you are able to stand on one leg. I believe it's for a minute. So in our Chasing Greatness workouts, when we are doing mobility or stretching, I always include some kind of balance challenge. So that's in there every single month to make sure that we are, every single month means also every single week. So every single week we are working our balance, but, might have a balance specific month or a flexibility specific month. Another thing you might want to focus on is increasing strength. this is something I heard from a lot of you last year was like, okay, I am getting, I'm enjoying seeing my lifts going up or doing more compound moves. Like if you do have access to the gym and you want to start deadlifting or anything like that, you can obviously do that at home too if you have the equipment, but that might be the time where you are just focusing on increasing strength as much as you can. So you're going to follow a plan that supports that would have you eating basically to break down the nutrition piece with it, to really simplify it. And again, we talked about this more within our groups. So inside the Chasing Greatness group, I'd say each month, like, hey, it's a fat loss month. So nutritionally, I want you to take yourself down to a little bit of a cut. Let me know if you need to, need help with what that looks like, whatever. But when we're in a strength month, I say, hey, we're in a strength month. So you need to be eating enough and maybe in a surplus. So eating more than you're burning just for this month so you can get as strong as possible. Then next month, we will take it back to a cut. And if you did gain like 1% body fat in this month, it'll fly off next month when we're doing fat loss and da-da-da. So your nutrition needs to support the style of working out that you're doing. Like last year when I was training for the race, I had to slowly up my carbs, when my mileage was going up. So these are nuanced things that we talk about, again, more within the program or just one-on-one. That's something we can always talk about in coaching calls, even if you're not in one of my programs and you just want to set up a plan. I did that with several ladies last year where we just sat down. They were like, I have this, this, and this coming. I still have these goals, but what should my plan look like? And we can set you up like a 12-week plan or something that's like, all right, these weeks you're going to be eating this, then increase to this, to get optimal results. Everything's got to really work together. So I'm just going to give you an example of this. This was actually I did not even release yet. I will this middle of this month, I'm going to give the 2024 options. So Chasing Greatness group will still be there. Our monthly workout group will announce our fat loss challenges for our beginners, those kinds of things. So I have not shared with the Chasing Greatness group yet what 2024's plan will look like. But this was the outline from the year, from just 2023. January and February, we did a fat loss focus. So it's usually nice to start the year after the holidays, trimming back down, going into a calorie deficit, doing a more fat loss focus style workout. So 10 to 12 reps, hits included, that kind of stuff. Now, again, I just want to reiterate that even within that fat loss focus, in the way I program my workouts, I still include single side work. I still include balance. I still include mobility. All of that is still in there. Just, might not be overtly saying it there. So then in March, we focused on balancing back out the macros, just kind of going to a maintenance phase and having specifically a lower body focus. So we still were strength training at least 3 times a week, but we were focusing on building really strong legs and glutes. In April, same thing. Essentially, we maintained calorie wise, and we focused on upper body strength. Then May to June, we went back to fat loss for that kind of spring slim down idea. So we went through a macro cut again, a little more fast paced style workouts, that kind of thing. July, we had a core focus. So even though we were working core all the time in those previous months, those first 5 months of the year, in July, we did a lot of core specific challenges and core strengthening. And then August, we did an athletic power focus. So our workouts looked like that, what you would need for power and performance. September, October was the last fat loss round of the year. So taking advantage of kind of getting into a routine, making sure we're back on track after summer, where a lot of us stray. And then to end out the year, November was, I thought, really fun. It was aerobic capacity endurance. So a little bit similar to the athletic power month. It was like more high rep. So low weights, high rep, to make sure you had good aerobic capacity, like your heart could handle the workouts as well. We were huffing and puffing a lot in those ones. And then lastly, this last month of the year is about maintenance. So it's also not too late. If you want to hop in with us for December, you're totally welcome to. There's even a 2-week free trial, and you can test out what that looks like within there. So in this month of maintenance, yes, we're working on just keeping our macros the same, pretty much trying to get out of the holidays without gaining weight is the goal. Keeping our workouts going to help us keep our sanity, our mental health, our physical health within these 3 and then the optional fourth workouts, I still have mobility. I still have single-sided work. I still have balance work. I still have all that. So I hope that makes sense. I hope this gives you a holistic view of the year and kind of gives you a springboard to start with. Like I said, I would love to help you. My coaching call calendar is going to be closed for December just because the baby is coming. And, maybe I'll change that. Maybe I'll open it up if there's a lot of interest. You could always email me, Brittany@healthycatholicmoms.com. Otherwise, I plan to open my coaching calendar back up for January, and we could get on then as well. Maybe can jot some things down and get some things going, and then we can solidify it in January if you need that. Or maybe, like I said, if you just want it laid out for you, Chasing Greatness Group might be a fantastic option. You can come in right now, but all of the paid in full options for 2024 will be, which is a better value, will come up in just a few weeks here. All right. So I hope this was helpful. Next episode, you might hear my 2-year-old is throwing things right above us. So I hear my husband correcting him. Might have heard all of it as well. Welcome. This is a family style show here. But next episode, we're going to talk about decluttering for Advent. So a little bit of a pivot from our health and fitness, and then we'll get back to planning 2024. All right. So I will talk to you then. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.